Jean from Happy Indulgence and welcome to my channel. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button down below. So basically today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 diverse fantasy books. If you're like me, you absolutely love fantasy and fantasy is your jam, but after reading so many of them, they all sound the same after a while. So I have really expanded my horizons to try and read more diversely, featuring characters of different colors and from different backgrounds and based on different mythology, and it often really mixes things up and introduces me to concepts that I've never thought of before. So basically these are my top 5 diverse fantasies. I think 4 of them are YA books and 1 of them is definitely not a YA book. So I'm just going to get started and yeah. So book number 5 is When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. This is such a magical book. It's basically a magical realism about a couple. So one of the girls has a disability where she grows roses out of her arms and she gets bullied and teased for it. The other character is a guy called Sam, and basically he is a transgender boy and he identifies as transgender, but he's also Pakistani, but he also gets bullied for the identity that he takes on as well, and it's actually really sad and heartbreaking. So as you can tell, it's a really heartbreaking book. There's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of marginalization, but I found it really inspiring because of the way that these two characters held on to each other, how they supported each other, how they loved each other without judging, and how they listened to each other with their disabilities and marginalizations. They're definitely different and they definitely suffer differently, but the way they supported each other was super inspiring. It's also a really beautifully written book. I don't know if you've read any other books by Anna Marie McLemore, but they're all really lyrical and poetic. They're really slow burn books, so obviously they're not fast paced and full of action, but it's more about the experience that I found really beautiful. I also really love best friends to lovers relationships, which this one definitely was, and from what I understand, it's also based on the author's own experience and her own relationship with her husband as well, which I found super inspiring. It's also based on Pakistani and Latino mythology that's weaved in. Basically, Sam leans heavily on the Pakistani tradition where he acts as a female in order to assume that relationship within his family. His family is one that doesn't have a daughter, and so he does the cleaning and the cooking, and he also has less than manly attributes as well, which leads on to his transgender identity. So I found When the Moon Was Ours to be a really beautiful, evocative and heartbreaking read. It's definitely one that opened my eyes on the realm of intersectional diversity as well. So number 4 is The Star Touch Queen by Roshani Chokshi, and the companion novel, which I'll briefly talk about, which is A Crown of Wishes by Roshani Chokshi. And these are companion novels. Oh my gosh, The Star Touch Queen was such a beautiful, beautiful read. I don't think I've read anything like this before, and that's definitely a testament to Roshani Chokshi as an author. So this is based off Indian mythology, and it talks about the afterlife and the underworld and reincarnation as well, which I haven't seen explored in such detail. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling as well, so there's a lot going for it. Basically, this is a book where you will be reading it and you'll be like, what the fuck is going on? Because it's one of those types of books that is so intangible and so woven deeply into the mythology. Basically, it's about a girl called Maya who is cursed. She gets married to a guy called Amar, who also happens to be the ruler of the underworld. He disappears every night. She doesn't know what he's up to. She has some suspicions about him. So she goes and explores the world of the Akaran, or the underground, however you want to see it. There's a lot of mythological creatures, and sometimes it gets so intangible, like it's a beautiful, beautiful setting, but then you're like, what the hell is going on? But I really loved it. Like, it really opened my mind up to new possibilities. Like, I was really curious about the different creatures that the Indian mythology lent to, and also just about about the concept of this underworld where you can weave dreams with your hands and you can see the thread of people's lives, and there's basically someone there that does that controls people's fates, and that was really interesting as well. Although I felt like there was a bit of insta love, I still ended up really loving this one and gave it 4 stars. So I'm just gonna talk briefly about A Crown of Wishes. I actually love this book more than the Star Touch Queen. I gave this one 5 stars, and it's because it's about Maya's sister called Gowrie, and she's like this really hardcore princess that she won't hesitate to be brutal, to kill you. She's stuck in this prison because she's betrayed her kingdom. And she basically has nothing left to lose. And then you've got Vikram, and he's basically like a false prince that was put there to look good as a figurehead, but obviously he's like a puppet as well. So the two of them, they have the best banter and the best relationship as you see them evolve, because they have to participate in a tournament of wishes. You just see them evolving with their relationship, and like it's filled with banter. It's like a hate to love relationship, which I was absolutely down for. And this is also based on Indian mythology as well, but I found it a lot more tangible. Like I spent less time wondering what the heck was going on and more time appreciating both of the characters in here. So I love these 2 books. Definitely pick them up if you're interested in Indian mythology. Number 3 is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. How can you go through 2018 without hearing about this book? I can definitely say that it lives up to the hype. Basically, it's a book about the Maji clan, which are enslaved, and it's about a girl called Zelie who has to break out of the oppression and bring magic back to the lands again, because the king wants to enslave these Magi people. They have dark skin and markings on their faces, but they also have really powerful abilities, and he's scared that the magic will come and overthrow him. So instead, they basically live in like subhuman conditions, and they're slaves basically. So then you've got all these like different stages of Magi clans, which is super interesting. There's elemental magic, there's healing magic, and then you've got Zelie who has Reaper magic, so she can raise souls, which is super interesting. I really liked the sibling relationship in here. So she has a lot of banter with Zane, who she loves and hates at the same time. Can't live with him, can't live without him. You've also got a spoiled princess who wants to escape the kingdom, but obviously she's like kind of like working with the enemy. So there was a lot going for it. It's a really dark, brutal, and gory fantasy. It gets a lot darker than a lot of YA fantasies tend to do, which I really appreciated. And I love hearing about the mythology. I loved how it's grounded in the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just thought it was a really unique fantasy, and it's one of my favorite books of 2018. The ending, oh my gosh, it had me like, it's one of those endings where like you close the book and you're like, oh my gosh, did that seriously happen? And I'm like, it was one of those type of books where I cannot wait for the sequel. At the end of the day, I really love Children of Blood and Bone. If you haven't picked it up yet and you love elemental fantasy, love different kingdoms and hearing about people overthrowing the system basically, I think Children of Blood and Bone will be for you. So number 2 is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I have just read this month, and I can say for sure that this is already my top read of 2018, and that's a big call, guys, because 2018 isn't over yet. This is a Chinese military fantasy that is grounded on the military tactics of Sun Tzu, but it's also about training these Chinese students who will become elite commanders and lead the whole Chinese military. Before I go into it, there are a lot of trigger warnings when it comes to this book. This is not a YA book, and it's not for the faint-hearted, even though the characters are teens at the start of the book. So it has basically every single war crime you can think of, you know, rape, genocide, murder, abuse, animal deaths, animal cruelty. I will leave a link down below to the author's blog post explaining her reasoning why for not skimming over any of these things, and it was really confronting. It is in the later chapters though, around chapter 21, so it does come in later in the book. Basically, this book, oh my gosh, I loved it so much, and I loved how it started off with Rin wanting to break out of her circumstances. She's basically really poor, having no parents, and she's basically about to be married away to an older man who can provide for her for the rest of her life, seeing as she's experiencing poverty, but she does everything that she can, including like self-mutilation, to get into one of the elite military academies called the Sin Guards. Basically, at this academy, she learns all the skills that she needs in order to be a master commander. So there's law, there's archery, there's magic as well. There's strategies. The funny thing about this book is also that opium runs amok in the story. So it's set amongst the opium times of Chinese history. The book is basically based off the events around the rape of Nanjing, a really dark time in Chinese and Japanese World War II history. So before you look that up though, warning that it's super graphic and I couldn't sleep after looking it up before bed, which was probably my mistake. So the book is set up into 3 distinct parts. The first one is about the military academy where she meets a bunch of students and befriends them for life. And then the second part is when she's undergoing training as a soldier. And then the third part is where the war actually happens. And it's really, really interesting. It's so complex and multi-layered with the way that she interacts with her commander, with her master, and with the rest of her colleagues. Rin is basically like your Slytherin queen who will do anything in her power to win and to be at the top of the class and to be the best soldier ever. So she is basically goals, guys. And what I loved about this book was all the fight scenes and how it doesn't shy away from describing them in great detail, along with the military fantasy. All the characters were absolutely compelling. Like you've got Nezro, who's the son of a dragon lord, and he's super arrogant, but he does like actually kind of redeem himself. Then you've got Altan, and he's basically like the best perfect student that everyone wants to be like. Rin has a bit of a thing for him because she idolizes him, but then obviously he has an anger problem. So each and every character does have their flaws, and it was interesting to see how they dealt with them and how it came out in their lives and what they're actually dealing with. And gosh, it gets really, really dark, and like it really affects you. And I can't stop thinking about like the gray areas of morality, of genocide, of retribution, of the weight of people's lives in one person's hands and what they do with it, and just the magic that comes out of here and the lore. And oh my gosh, it's such a fantastic book, and I gave it 5 stars, and I hope you guys read it. It's so, so good. Number 1 is none other than my favorite, 6 of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. If you've been a follower of my channel or my blog for a long time, you'll know that 6 of Crows and Crooked Kingdom is my favorite series of all time. I just cannot fault it, and I actually reread it once a year just to experience the feelings again. When you look at how diverse fantasy can be without sacrificing the plot or making it about the marginalizations, this series like is almost perfect when it comes to that. Like you've got Kaz, and he's basically the leader of the Dregs, which is a band of misfits and criminals who basically make their money doing tasks for other people. The goal of the Dregs is to break into this unbreakable fortress or ice kingdom in order to steal something and return it and make a lot of money. So obviously when you look at it, they're a bunch of criminals, but oh my gosh, they're the most lovable criminals that you will ever meet. What I love about this series is the Russian mythology that it's based off. So it's based off Leigh Bardugo's Grisha trilogy. But even if you haven't read that series, like I've only read the first book, you will pick up the world that it talks about. So this world really does come to life when you think about the different magic that people have, and the Grishas, who are basically royalty because they have magic. And then you've got people like Kaz, who are just trying to get by, doing what they can to survive. What I love about this series is each and every one of the ships and the characters. I love Kaz and Inej because Inej is basically your wraith goddess, and she will do anything she can to protect Kaz and to protect the rest of the Dregs. And then you've got Wylan, who's a super softie, and then you've got Jesper, the gun expert, and then you've got Nina, who's a sorceress, and she's also really cheeky and she's a bit of a seductress. And then you've got Matthias as well, and he's a bit of a ice Nordic soldier that's that's really hard to crack. But of course, when you pair these really wonderful characters together, they have so much banter, they have really fun ways of dealing with each other, and I just love them. And I loved how every single element of the plot just came together really well. Like the world building was perfect, the action was non-stop. Like each of the characters have their own differentiations and their own feelings and thoughts that really shape them as complex characters. I hope that's enough for this series. If you do end up reading it because of my review, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear it. And if you do end up reading it, also remember your box of tissues when you finish Crooked Kingdom. So these are my top 5 diverse fantasy series. So if you enjoyed this video, or if you end up picking up any of these books, please let me know in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and then subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.